Wherever in the world you have a device, it is the one and only U.S. Senator Roger Wicker. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for taking the time. I don't know, we got about 20 minutes before the governor comes in here, but I want to squeeze in as much as I possibly can because there are so many things to talk about. Number one, the infrastructure package, and I was just talking about this to in the House, Chuck Espy, the mayor of Clarksdale, and there, I guess, all of the mayors across the state and everybody else wondering where are we with this, and what's your inside personal analysis of where this is going.
Well, the little group of 6 Republicans led by Shelley Capito from West Virginia, we were told by the president a couple of days ago that there was no more need for negotiation between our group. He's going to try another route there. One of the real problems with the infrastructure package the president has is he wants to spend like $2.3 trillion when less than half of that would amount to a massive infrastructure bill, which everybody could be proud of. But the main thing is he wants to undo the 2017 tax cuts, which gave 95% of Americans a tax break on their personal returns, and also made us more competitive internationally in terms of the corporate rate. That is absolutely a non-starter with all 50 of us Republicans in the United States Senate. We think that tax bill is what was giving us such a great economy back in February and March of 2020.
No doubt. Yeah.
And then of course COVID came and the economy went south. And so our colleagues on the Democratic side see the tax bill didn't work. It didn't generate the economic pluses that you said it would. Well, of course, the reason it didn't work after March of 2020 is we're in a worldwide pandemic. The last thing we need to do as we come out of this shutdown and open the economy back up and ask job creators to get people back on the payroll, the last thing we need to do is put a tax burden on job creators. So
let me ask you this: is that gonna expire automatically? Because I mean, we have one story out there. I think it was on Fox News, Senator, that the tax, unless you re-up them, those tax cuts that were done by you guys are going to automatically expire.
Well, they won't expire for a long time. They're in place for several years. And
okay, so it's nothing. It's nothing to me.
At that point, we need to renew them. But,
I got
but they're in place for all of this year and the next, and we need to keep it that way. So that's one of the big issues. And actually, I'm glad to hear some Democrats like Kirsten Sinema of Arizona say we don't need to put a new tax on businesses that are out there trying to hire folks. It just doesn't make sense.
From your perspective, is Manchin going to hold as far as this election bill? And Nancy Pelosi is to the point now. She's almost saying that she will not take no for an answer. But is Manchin going to hold from your perspective, being there?
Well, Nancy Pelosi can say, I'm not going to take no for an answer. It's like any other situation where you just don't have votes. I don't think Joe Manchin is going to go back on his word that he opposes this election bill, and he has every right to do that. For one thing, Joe Manchin somehow got himself elected as a Democrat in the most pro-Trump state in the nation, West Virginia. So he's got to pay attention to his constituents. This election law bill that President Biden is for and the leadership in the House and Senate are both supporting, it would do away with all voter ID requirements. And most states have some sort of voter ID. It just makes sense. If you come in and say you're Paul Gallo, you ought to be able to pull your driver's license out and easily prove that. It would do away with that in all 50 states. And also, it would be a huge raid on the Treasury, taking taxpayer money and giving it to election accounts of candidates for Congress. We don't need that. And goodness, if we decide to do that, it ought to be done on a state level basis. It would never be passed in states like Mississippi. So there's just a whole lot of really unfair and illogical things in this S1, and I don't think it's going to pass. And also, we've got to protect the filibuster. And sometimes filibuster doesn't sound like a great word, but the 60-vote rule has been in place for decades and decades, and before that, it was even a 67-vote rule. It has brought about consensus in the United States Senate on major issues like Social Security, Medicare, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. All of that was done with a huge consensus because the 60-vote rule made us come together and work together for consensus.
I think as far as our Constitution, we're talking about nation changing if this bill passed. And it is kind of a testament how desperate they are in advance of redistricting in many different places, of course, or across the country, and some of the other things that going on. To hold all of these little groups together, this is probably their last straw. And that's one of the reasons I think she's saying she will not take no for an answer. I do want to ask you
Paul,
this.
On the redistricting, that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi is worried about. In this last election, 2020, I mean, President Biden got himself elected president, but state legislatures that have traditionally done the redistricting have gone overwhelmingly Republican. And so Republicans will be in charge of drawing the new congressional districts, and that's just the way it's always been. This law would change that and rearrange the deck there.
By the way, we don't often say this, but go back and every once in a while we'll have a story on, and we did last week, a couple of stories about some decisions by judges as far as immigration and a couple of other things, and they ruled in favor of common sense, the Constitution, and if you want to say, thereby conservatives. But we always say this. Elections have consequences, and now you're beginning to see some of the appointments by the president have those consequences toward the Democrats and towards some of the far left. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, absolutely. And the three really excellent things we did during the first 2 years of the Trump administration, when we had the presidency, the Senate, and the House, we relieved job creators of all these regulations. And President Trump did that from day one. We lightened the tax burden on people who want to get out there and have a small business and hire a bunch of folks. And we appointed sound judges. Of course, three excellent additions to the Supreme Court, but also up and down from the state, the district judges in Mississippi to appeals court judges. Those are the three absolutely consequential and long-lasting accomplishments that we were able to do during the 4 years of the Trump administration with help from a Republican Senate.
Don't have a lot of time left here, but I do want to ask you, how vulnerable are we as far as our contracts, as far as military installations or military is concerned? Final question. Okay,
well, we're going to have a hearing of Armed Services Committee in just a few minutes. I guess at the bottom of this hour, I'll be running out of this office and down there. And here's what the president has proposed to do: a massive increase of some 20% in domestic non-defense spending, and a 1.8% increase in military spending. Now, what we've calculated is with 2.2% inflation, that is a cut in spending power. So with everything China is doing, with Hamas sending rockets into Jerusalem, we're going to cut national defense. It makes no sense. And I think we have Democrats and Republicans that will vote to turn that around.
Keep us informed, sir. Appreciate it very, very much.
Thank you much.
Dr. Wicker, you got it.